Now, my topic is speaking on BHEX and other Pupil Expanders. So we are expecting Iris hooks earlier, but then you'll hear about Iris hooks later. So as a courtesy to other Pupil Expanders, what I'll do is we'll have other Pupil Expanders and Iris hooks first, and then I'll talk about the BHEX. And I do have a financial interest in the BHEX Pupil Expander and Medinman devices as a owner director. Now, with Iris hooks, I'll briefly go through the issues with Iris hooks. We've been using Iris hooks for a very long time. All of us have used it. I myself have contributed to the development of the same also. But the big problem is you are wasting a lot of corner space. Anything outside that circle is actually wasted space. Outside the capsule axis is the place where we don't require anything. And the second thing is that it gets the pupil plane is elevated to the limbus. So that cramps your space in the anterior chamber. And there is this study in the Journal of Cataract and Refractive Surgery which says that Iris hooks take a little longer time, whether it's experienced surgeons or novices. And of course, if it's a tight situation and you got a lot of IFIS, you may have bad marks on the iris, which may not be cosmetically very pleasant. Now, the problem with Malugan, which has been the standard of care, is that it is a biplanar device. It requires a little skill in loading and withdrawing and injecting it. There is a learning curve. You require a manipulator, and the biggest problem is removal. While you can have the skills to insert it, now that's the company video itself, so absolutely flawless. And the last scroll is tucked in and the pupil margin is engaged. Now that's fine so far, but you look at when you try to remove it, look at the two scrolls at the distal and proximal part. Now when engaging it to and into the injector itself to remove it is a little bit of a challenge. And then you look at those two arrow marks and you see how the pupil margin is getting crushed over there, and that is a very nasty situation. That's a very intimidating situation for any surgeon. So the problem stems from the fact that the Malugan ring is a biplanar device. Can we have the
and act as a compression spring too, and hence can crush or release the iris unpredictably.
It is fundamentally wrong to attempt inserting a biplanar scroll through a slit incision. That is why an injector is required to prevent snagging of the incision.
So can you please keep that volume over there? And the problem is with the Malugan ring is that it's a spring. So it's a spring which has got it moves in both directions. So it's axial, torsional as well as axial spring. So that's where it causes the crushing. Now, this is another video by Tom Oetting from the University of Iowa, and this was produced, and this actually tells you the real story about the Malugan ring and the teething problems that people had. You look at that was the time when Malugan rings used to break while withdrawing. It's got a glued joint, so that possibility always remains inside the eye, and that could be a very nasty situation. Now, then part of it curls and kind of snags in the incision, and here it's a very nasty situation where you have it got stuck with the iris and you just can't remove it, so it had to be cut and removed. Now the next is the AIOC Pupil Expander. Now this looks a little gross in the anterior chamber. It's a bulky device. Engaging is difficult, and so it's not really stood the test of time and hasn't had great acceptance. It's really a little cumbersome. This is the Expand NT speculum, but again, this was with the forceps. It's very difficult to use it. It's a challenge over here, so they themselves modified it, and that's the reason why all pupil expanders require an injector. And that's the very same reason that the BHEX does not require an injector, because these are biplanar devices and the BHEX is a planar device or a uniplanar device. This is the Expand NT, so since they were struggling with that, they moved to the injector, and now you see what happens with the injector. It's a nitinol ring, so it's a metal ring, so it doesn't have that smoothness. It's pretty jerky and difficult to control. So again, this hasn't been very successful in the global market. Beaver Visitech came out with the I-ring, and this has been there in the market, but again, it's got a large vertical profile, and the anterior chamber can be looking very intimidating, and if it's a shallow anterior chamber, it can be a little tight for space. Canabrava rings is PMMA. PMMA really doesn't have much of a place in the current day because it's a fairly rigid thing, and well, you might get away with a case or two, but it does not have the versatility to go around and in all the surgeries that we require. So this has not been a great success. So this is a survey we conducted in August 2020, right? When we were coming out of COVID, and that was a time when people were willing to respond to surveys. And it was very heartening for me to see that the BHEX Pupil Expander was at 42% usage compared to Iris Hooks at 41. That's a neck-to-neck competition. Yes, maybe we did not have a very large response set, and if you look at compared to the other devices, the BHEX was far ahead. Now, BHEX is a very simple device, simple planar device, and it is extremely thin, 0.075 millimeters, that's 75 microns. It's 1/10 the thickness of any device available, and extremely flexible, resiliently flexible. That's the property we look for in a device. And this is the forceps that we recommend, the BHEX 23 gauge forceps. It's ergonomically designed for use with this device. So the basic difference between the BHEX and the Malyugin ring or other rings that have been there, it's the planar. The Malyugin ring or other devices engage the pupil margin. It's a biplanar structure, whereas BHEX, the notches are flat and the same plane. So the iris bends at the notches and the device remains at the same plane. So you just need to tuck alternate flanges under the pupil margin, and you have a wonderful hexagonal pupil. The beauty is that it really is so thin that you don't feel its presence in the anterior chamber, and that allows you a lot of flexibility and room in the anterior chamber to go ahead. Removal, you could use the main port or the side ports, and it is really easy, one of the easiest devices to remove. So this is the 23 gauge forceps that we recommend. Now, you could use any incision. Hitherto, I used to say that you could use 1.8 to 2.2 because there are a lot of surgeons who still use love to use comics, so they use 1.8 millimeters incision, and well, it just walks in through a 1.8 incision, and tucking the flanges is absolutely easy. It comes intuitive to any eye surgeon, and we have used micro forceps for a long time, and it's very easy. Now, see the small space that you have in the antechamber for movement of that phaco probe. So your nuclear fragments can move around, and you can move around the probe. The IA probe, see the excursion of the IA probe, and the device really does not come in the way. That is a huge plus when you are working in a small place like the anterior chamber. Again, insertion of the IOL is absolutely easy because of the space. It doesn't come in the way of the injector nozzle, and removal through the main incision is absolutely easy. It's a walk in the park. Now, given that, and you get a lovely round pupil at the end of surgery. Now, this is what I presented at the ASCRS, just concluded on a back day for yesterday. Now, this is, you can insert the BHEX through a 1.2 millimeter incision. No device, that is no pupil expander known to mankind, has been able to go through such a small incision. Yes, we need to orient the flanges, hold the leading flange at the end of it, and then it goes in very easily through a 1.2 incision, and that we are probably ready for an unmet need which is there right now, as well as we are future ready. If you look at the removal, now again, the removal is so easy. It's as thin as a human hair, so you can just hold it through the side port, disengage it, and you can remove it through the side port, which is 0.9 millimeters. No other device has achieved this feat. So another huge advantage that we found these days, especially in India, we've seen that surgeons are moving towards hydroimplantation, that is implantation of the IOL without any OVD. That's where the BHEX, again, you can just hold that irrigation with a low flow in the side port, and you can remove the BHEX easily. How big do you want the pupil to be? Now, this is a question people have asked. So 5.5 is very good. BHEX provides that. And even with iris hooks, I would recommend you don't do any more than that. So this is a wonderful video by Dr. Deepak Magur, who's over here on stage with us. He's a great educator. So you see this, it's a pretty hard cataract. And the BHEX provides a 5.5 pupil. All you need to do is chop that cataract into small fragments, and you can get away with any hardness of cataract. It's really not such a big deal. So now, intraoperative meiosis. BHEX is probably the safest device when you have, you're caught as a surprise and the pupil comes down on you. Now, what you need is, the problem with the Malyugin ring is that the scrolls, the openings in the scrolls on the sides, so you do not get a clear view from on a top view. So you are not very sure whether you're engaging the capsule margin or the pupil margin. Now, the BHEX, because the notches are facing you, you are absolutely sure, and as you engage the pupil margin and draw it to the periphery, you have absolute instant confirmation that you've not engaged the capsule margin.
And welcome to the 20th
And there is no bigger honor than this.
AAO Spotlight on Cataract Complications. And this ring is very popular in Asia, I believe, and in some European countries. And again, it's FDA approved, and he calls it the BHEX ring. And it's really, really thin. So this ring comes out really easy. It's flimsy, it's thin, and we pull it right out.
There couldn't be better encouragement than Dr. David Chang endorsing the ring. And this again is on the American Academy website. This is a wonderful video by Professor Deepak Edward and Michael Henry. And this is on BHEX being used in a tube shunt case, which is actually a common problem these days. And these have shallow anterior chambers and multiple comorbidities. So getting around that tube shunt it's pretty easy with the BHEX. No other device would allow you that flexibility and versatility. This has been used widely in posterior segment surgery also. This is an award-winning video by Dr. Devdulal Chakraborty, and I won't go into the details, but it's available on YouTube. So what your pupil expander would be depend upon how you wish to tear a rigid pupil. So if it's an elastic pupil, you can get rid with any device. If you want to tear a fibrotic pupil with the device, you will need a bulky device like the Malugin or others. But with the BHEX, you can use a stretch and then do that. These are publications, and I'd encourage you to look up this, which is available on our website. Thank you very much for your kind attention.